May 5th, 1947. Archie Moore loses to Ezra Charles in 10 rounds at the Music Hall Arena in Cincinnati, Ohio. Ezra Charles would drop Archie Moore in the 7th round for a 9 count. And a crowd of 4,502 spectators, who collectively spent $23,281.50 for this ring classic, was amazed. You see, once again, Ezra Charles would offer $75,000 to face World Light Heavyweight Champion Gus Lesnievich. And once again, Gus Lesnievich would ignore him. And then he would refuse. 30-year-old Archie Moore, who stood 5 foot 11 inches and weighed 174.5 pounds, had a 75-inch reach and walked into the ring that evening with a record of 84 wins, 12 losses, 7 draws, with 65 knockouts. And when you take a look at Ezra Charles, he was 25 years old coming into that match. He stood 6 foot and weighed 174.5 pounds. He had a 73-inch reach and had a record of 45 wins, 4 losses, 1 draw, and 23 knockouts. Now, between July 29, 1946 and April 14, 1947, Ezra Charles would have 6 wins against Lloyd Marshall, Oakland Billy Smith, who he fought twice, Jimmy Bivens, who he fought twice, and Irvin Slavin, who he faced once. Between Archie Moore's wins, 4 rounds, 2 draws, for Buddy Walker, Oakland Billy Smith, Jack Tace twice, and Rusty Payne, Archie Moore would defeat Curtis the Hatchet Man Shepard June 16, 1947 at the Griffith Stadium in Washington, D.C. July 14, 1947, he would take on Burt Littell. Burt Littell would lose to Archie Moore, but Archie Moore would defeat Jimmy Bivens and Bobby Zander, George Fitch, before losing once again to the great Ezra Charles. Now, Ezra Charles was 26 years old. He stood 6 foot and weighed 174 pounds, had a 73-inch reach with a record of 53 wins, 5 losses, 1 draw, and 28 knockouts. Now, this time Archie Moore was 31 years old. He stood 5 foot 11 inches and weighed 173.5 pounds. He had a 75-inch reach and walked into the ring with a record of 89 wins, 13 losses, 7 draws, and 67 knockouts. Now, the referee was Jackie Davis, and he stopped the contest as Archie Moore in the 8th round after succumbing to a beating during that round. Once again, the fight took place at the Cleveland Arena against Ezra Charles in front of 8,334 spectators, grossing $38,902. That was an amazing contest. Now, Wednesday, July 16, 1947, Rocky Graziano knocks out Tony Zale for the NBA Middleweight Championship contest. It took place at the Chicago Stadium, and the referee was Johnny Bird. He counts out Tony Zale 2 minutes and 10 seconds of the 6th round in front of 18,447 spectators. The fight took place at the Chicago Stadium. A 34-year-old Tony Zale stood 5 foot 7.5 inches. He weighed 159 pounds. He had a 69-inch reach and a record of 63 wins, 16 losses, 2 draws, and 41 knockouts. As for 28-year-old Rocky Graziano, he stood 5 foot 7 inches, weighed 155 pounds, and had a 68.5-inch reach. He walks in with a record of 45 wins, 7 losses, 5 draws, and 34 knockouts. Now, the thing about Rocky Graziano, he stood 5 foot 7 inches. That would be the same height as Tommy Burns. Tommy Burns was from Canada. He would become the heavyweight champion when he would defeat Marvin Hart for the vacant strap left over by Jim Jeffries. Tommy Burns would lose his title in 1908 to the first black world heavyweight champion, Jack Johnson. But another man who stood 5 foot 6.5 to 5 foot 7 inches would be Sam Langford. Sam Langford was a 5-time colored heavyweight champion. Imagine Sam Langford in the ring with Rocky Graziano or Tony Zale. Oh, boggles the mind. December 19th, 1947. Ray Robinson knocks out Chuck Taylor in 6 rounds. They fought in Detroit, and he will remain the world welterweight champion as he was defending his title for the 2nd time. June 26, 1947, Marcel Sedan knocks out Giovanni Manca in the second round. He hit him so hard that Giovanni Manca would break his ankle. With the weight falling on the France canvas, Marcel Sedan will remain the European middleweight championship crown, world champion during those years. February 20th, 1948, world-ranked light heavyweight champion Azar Charles knocks out Stillman's James Warrior, Sam Baruti, in the 10th round in Chicago, Illinois. And the very next morning, Baruti would die. It would be cerebral hemorrhaging to the brain. Sammy Baruti had faced Newton Smith 6 months ago, and he was KO'd. 1947, Baruti faced hard-punching light heavyweight Bob Satterfield. Bob Satterfield, his name was Robert Satterfield. He was born November 9, 1923 in St. Louis, Missouri. He died June 1st, 1977. He was 53 years of age at the time of his death, and he would reside in Chicago, Illinois. He stood 6 foot 2 inches. He was a heavyweight. Fought from 1945 to 1957. Had total bouts at the end of his career of 79 fights. 50 wins, 25 losses, and 36 knockouts. Baruti met Satterfield on the night of January 24th, 1948. After his defeat of Albert Johnson, Baruti versus Bob Satterfield. This fight was on the undercard of Bo Jack and Johnny Bratton. The fight took place in Chicago. He was the hometown hero and a future NBA welterweight champion of the world. Johnny Bratton was known as the Honey Boy, and he would take on Bo Jack. Bo Jack was a fan favorite. He was a 2-time New York SAC lightweight champion. One of the most exciting bouts in boxing history. Baruti went down, and Satterfield went down 6 times before Satterfield was stopped. Azar Charles would drop Sam Baruti in the 10th round, and Sam Baruti began pounding the canvas simultaneously as the referee would count him out. What was amazing about this is that Sam Baruti, who wound up in a coma, was a favorite in Stillman's gym. Everyone loved Sam Baruti. They adored him. He would walk into the ring with a briefcase, a 3-piece suit, and a fedora hat with wingtip shoes, saying, "I'm hitting hard today." And he would go into the locker room and ask everyone how they were doing. "Did you win your fight last night? Who you fighting next?" He would get dressed, go hit on a heavy bag, and when he heard that there was a lot of noise going on at ringside in the gym, he wanted to find out what the fuss was about. And when he saw what was happening, he would go into the locker room, this guy. And on the way out, when he saw that there was a bigger crowd, he went once again to the ring and couldn't resist himself. When the round was over, he would tell that gentleman, "I'll be right back." And he would go back to the locker room and change back into his fight attire. And he would go and spar with that individual. They had to prove to him what they were made of. Sam Baruti was something else. That is the story of my dad. Sam was carried out by an ambulance and was brought back to Cook County Hospital. And Azar Charles would announce the next morning, Jake Montz would go with him while he was spending a night on the bench, hearing the results of what took place between the bout of himself and Sam Baruti. Now, Sam Baruti, his name was Sam Crandall. He was born August 29, 1926 in Akron, Ohio. He died February 21st, 1948. He was 21 years of age at the time of his death, and he would reside in Chicago, Illinois. He stood 6 foot, he weighed 176 pounds, and he fought between May 15th, 1945 and February 26, 1948. He would leave us with a record of 56 total bouts, 41 wins, 21 knockouts, 11 losses, 2 draws, and 2 no contests. Those Ohio boys were something else. You had Sam Baruti and Jimmy Bibbins, Azar Charles. You had a man by the name of Harry Bobo. You had so many good light heavyweights and heavyweights in Ohio. Shout out to those Ohio boys, great fighters. In 1948, we produced some great fighters. February 27th, Ike Williams would defeat Kid Gavilan. March 23rd of 1948, Ricky Monahan would knock out Jack Patterson. April 26th, Kid Gavilan would defeat Tommy Bell. March 12th, Marcel Sedan would defeat Laverne Roach. Laverne Roach would die in the ring after that match from a hemorrhage to the brain. May 25th of 1948, Ike Williams would defeat Enrique Bolaños, very good Mexican fighter. They would fight out of California. Now, Tony Zale, Rocky Graziano would have their last contest between the two men. And this time they would fight in Jersey City. And what a fight that would be. Very good friend of mine and trainer. His name was Art Cavalier. Him and his brother Paul would tell me about that fight as Paul Cavalier refereed that contest. And that was some match. Tony Zale would get back his NBA middleweight championship strap from Rocky Graziano. Rocky Graziano would defeat Tony Zale in 1947 for the strap. October 29th, Sandy Saddler would knock out Willie Pep in 4 rounds in New York to win the featherweight championship title. June 10th, 1948, Rocky Graziano was knocked out by Tony Zale as referee Paul Cavalier, 1 minute and 8 seconds of the 3rd round. The fight took place at the Ruppert Stadium in Newark, New Jersey. It was for the World Middleweight Championship contest. 21,497 spectators would not be disappointed. What a contest between these two men. June 9th, 1948. Tony Zale stood 5 foot 7.5 inches, weighed 159 pounds as middleweight. He had a 69-inch reach with a record of 67 wins and 17 losses and 2 draws. Rocky Graziano stood 5 foot 7 inches, weighed 159 pounds, that's middleweight. He had a 68.5-inch reach, had a record of 47 wins, 8 losses and 5 draws. $60,000 would go to Zale. $120,000 would go to Rocky Graziano as he was champion. The fans invested $335,646. And radio listeners invested $45,000 to hear this magnificent contest. $25,000 was grossed for movie rights. No television rights were allowed. That was requested by the promoters. Two-ton Tony Colento and many other New Jersey residents would pay money to see this contest. September 21st, 1948, NBA World Middleweight Champion Tony Zale is knocked out by Marcel Sedan in front of 19,272 spectators. They paid $242,840 to watch this contest. And referee Paul Cavalier would grab Tony Zale by the shoulders as he melts in the arms of the referee. It was at the old Roosevelt Stadium in Jersey City, New Jersey. 32-year-old Marcel Sedan, who stood 5 foot 6.5 inches, weighed 158 pounds, and had a 67-inch reach. He walked into the ring that evening with a record of 67 wins, 17 losses, 2 draws, and 45 knockouts. When you take a look at Tony Zale, he was 35 years old. He stood 5 foot 7.5 inches, weighed 159 pounds. He had a 69-inch reach with a record of 107 wins, 3 losses, and 62 knockouts. I gotta tell you, one of the greatest fighters of all times would mix it up between the two men. Gerardo Gonzalez, the Cuban Hawk, born January 6, 1926 in Cuba, Havana, had a total bout career of 143 fights, 108 wins, 28 knockouts, and 30 losses. He died February 13, 2003. He was 77 years of age at the time of his death, and he would reside in Miami, Florida. September 23, 1948, World Welterweight Champion Ray Robinson defeats the Cuban Hawk, Kid Gavilan, 10 rounds in New York's Yankee Stadium. July 11, 1949, Ray Robinson once again defeats Kid Gavilan this time at the Municipal Stadium in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Ray's fourth title defense. It was his 99th professional bout, and Ray would receive 40% of the gate, $128,435. Gavilan would receive 18% of the gate. Robinson was a 2-1 favorite. He earned $175,754. Amazing gate. Now in 1950, you had some great fights. And we'll get to that in the next video. This was the second half of the 1940s. And as you can see why I feel this is one of the greatest decades of boxing. Thanks for listening. I'm Scrapbook Boxing, Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. All great fights and all great fighters will never be forgotten on my channel. Thanks for listening. Peace.